Hey guys, this is Eckhartsladder. Hello and welcome to another Star Wars Squadrons video over here on EcksToo. Today we are talking about the bomber class because it's arguably a bit of a black sheep, or at least a little underestimated. People assume that a bomber, because of what they've seen in the movies or read in the Star Wars Expanded Universe, especially in books like the X-Wing series, that the bomber will be completely useless, a sitting duck, only really useful as something to be destroyed on its way to a target. Is that the case in Star Wars Squadrons? Is the ship useless? Well, that's what we'll talk about today. And I think one thing that leads a lot of people to suspect that the bomber isn't very useful is the fact that even an interceptor can be given a loadout of missiles and anti-capital ship weapons. And yeah, that is true. Even a TIE interceptor can take a run on an enemy capital ship. That being said, those vessels really have nothing in the way of firepower compared to a TIE bomber or a Y-Wing. In Star Wars Squadrons, bombers actually do have unique weapons that no other craft has, and I think the best example of this is I believe it's a proton bomb, kind of just like you'd expect. You can fly over a target, drop an extremely heavy payload, and do damage that you just wouldn't be able to do with other ordnance. Anyone who's played the original Rogue Squadron for the N64 knows what I'm talking about here, but although I didn't actually get to do a bombing run, and I talked to others who did, and apparently it's extremely satisfying and dangerous. I did see while playing, this is pretty cool, when you're over a bombable target, you'll actually get a little indication on your screen, almost like an arrow pointing down, indicating that if you drop the bomb, it will hit something. And as a note, if you fly upside down and loose a bomb, then it won't fall back towards you, it will shoot straight up. Of course, notions like upside down are relative, but basically my understanding is just imagine it's not being dropped out of some chute, but rather accelerated along a rail. So where there's no or low gravity, it essentially just follows its original trajectory. One thing that people underestimate though, or fail to realize, is that bombers aren't only good at unleashing massive amounts of fire at capital ships, and anybody who watched my breakdown of Oda King's TIE Fighter short film will know what I'm talking about. Bombers also have extremely heavy anti-fighter weaponry, and a good example of this would be the cluster missile. Sorry, I don't have footage for this, or really most of the stuff in this video, but how it works is this. You have a sort of max amount of enemies you can target, it's probably 4 or 5, and as long as they're in front of you, you'll lock on. Then the missile fires, it breaks off into different components, and targets each individual on its own. I believe there's also a way to make multiple missiles fire on a single target. That might be the case if it's only locked onto one. Either way, it's a massive amount of damage. During our Q&A session, somebody asked, what was the point of using something like a TIE bomber in a mode where there's no capital ships, so in the dogfight mode? And Ian Fraser explained something that I think most of us realized later. As a player, you have to choose a ship that fits your play style. So if you play as an interceptor, you've got to rely on speed and not being hit, kind of flying at the seat of your pants all the time. Bombers aren't nearly as fast, but they will kill anything that gets in front of them. So it works really well for a player who is a bit more thoughtful. Maybe one who's really focused on ship positioning and tracking targets across the battlefield. The bombers just also have a really interesting array of components that you won't really see as a fighter or an interceptor, and I do think you have to be really thoughtful in how you use them. The TIE bomber, for example, has what's called an assault shield, and I just had no clue how to use it properly. Presumably, it's best used when you're attacking capital ships. So yeah, it is a very specialized ship, and one that personally I don't think I will be very good at playing. I'm not as patient as you probably need to be an excellent TIE bomber pilot. Although I do think something like an assault bomber anti-starfighter loadout would be really cool. There are certain engines and hull options which give you a little bit more speed at the cost of durability, and besides for support ships, which are definitely specialized in a different way, bombers are the most durable ships on the battlefield, and that gives you a lot of options for fighting back. Personally, I think the Y-Wing probably exists a little bit better in this role just because there are additional options. For example, a Y-wing with full power to shields and shields angled toward danger will be very, very difficult to kill. And there are even more things you can do to this. For example, there are certain shields which are more strong initially but will not recharge if broken. So something like that makes the ship incredibly difficult to take down. I also think that even for attacking capital ships, there will be different play styles for different bomber players. Some ships might want to focus on just taking one hard pass at a target, and there are certain engines which focus a lot on high top speed and less on maneuverability and acceleration. On the other hand, if you want to get near a capital ship and unload as much damage as you can for as long as you can, there are also certain loadouts that focus on maneuverability and durability. So you really just got to find something that fits your playstyle. So to summarize everything up to this point, is the bomber class bad? No, of course not. I think it's actually one of the most useful ship types in the entire game, because nothing can kill a capital ship like a bomber can, and nothing can kill a fighter straight ahead of it with the proper loadout like a bomber can as well. So in a way, you've got the best of both worlds, of course, with massive reduction in speed and maneuverability. I will say a couple of final things though before I end this video. I don't think, especially when you're playing fleet battles, that you'll ever be upset to see 2 or sometimes even 3 bombers on your side. So I really hope that there are a certain group of people that take a loving to this craft. Personally, I would love to get used to the Y-wing. I'm not a huge fan of the TIE bomber just because I don't like the ship's design, but that shot of the bombers, attacking the ship from the trailer did kind of get me interested, I'm not going to lie. The second thing is, even if you're not playing a bomber, you can definitely, and you should definitely, take a major role in assisting bombing runs by communicating with your squad, and that's everything from marking a target when you're ready to engage, especially if it's something like a frigate where there's multiple options, and using your comms and whatever else. And of course, when the bombing run has actually begun, you can help if there's nothing attacking the bomber, but when that vessel is locked in on dealing anti-capital ship damage, your job as a fighter or an interceptor should be keeping starfighters off of its tail. So, run next to it and get ready to chase any enemy away. But guys, that's all I've got to say on this topic. Let me know. It's been a few days since we did a pure Squadrons video like this. Are there any questions you guys still have? Is there any topic you'd like to see me do a deep dive video on? I would kind of like to answer a bunch of questions, maybe at the end of one of the future videos. So let me know down in the comments. I read each and every one of them. And of course, if you enjoy the Squadrons content, make sure to drop a like and subscribe. But more than that, if you really want to help the channel out, consider supporting us on Patreon. We've got lots of really cool rewards. Some of them will definitely change when Squadron comes, and we can offer things like joining our squadron for the higher tiered patrons for certain game nights, but the specifics aren't quite known yet. If you want to support us, the link's down in the description, and we'd really appreciate that. Till next time though, guys, have a good one, and as always, may the Force be with you.